All right, it is freshy day. Super excited, picking up a 300 XCW TBI 2024 Mountain Dirty Motorsports. Just walking in, real excited. Woo! What do you think? Yeah, hi, how's it going? Yeah, so
Summit, yeah.
Hey, Summit, hi.
Summit's our old friend around here. Summit is like the mayor around here. He's about 10 and a half. He's got to be part of every conversation. He's one of our two resident ambassadors here at Mountain Dirty Motorsports.
Oh, hi Summit. You're a sweetheart, aren't you? Yes, you
He's
are.
a sweet boy.
Yeah, sweet guy. Sweet guy.
He also wants a screwdriver to carry around. So let's get him one more. Summit. All right, let's park it. Come on, sit down. Sit. 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 Sit down. You know how this goes. All right, slow. 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 Good boy. Off we go.
Good boy, Summit. Good boy.
Okay. All right.
That's awesome. Good stuff, Lee.
All right. So here with the next new 300 XCW at Mountain Dirty Motorsports. This is our first one going out. A few of them got around a couple days earlier. For whatever reason, our truck came a little later, but we've got plenty of these to go out. You may notice one thing right off the bat, that Brian has selected a factory seat in black. We've got these in stock. Boy, does that look good right now on this motorcycle. It really pulls out the black highlights, black frame. Of course, starting last year, we've got black clutch cover and stator cover that are on here. So boy, does it make this bike hop. Great looking motorcycle with that seat on top. All right, so if we go back, we're resembling a lot of the other 23 models with the white number plates, orange tail section on here as well. So starting up top, the first thing that everyone's going to notice is, of course, the new oil reservoir input. As you'll notice too, by the way, I don't know if you could tell, it's kind of offset. So if you got a bike on a stand like we do now, you're going to wonder, wait a second, why is that offset? Obviously, so on a kickstand, it can be filled and still be level. So nice touch there. Seals a little better, it feels like, than the old one as well. And they made good use of that flat spot on that new frame design. A couple other things while we're up top here. Let's stay on the top of the motorcycle. Gosh, how very XC and XCF of you with this pad. If you'll notice, let's go ahead and pull that off. Now all of a sudden we've got a pedestal that's a little bit different than in the past. In the past we had two risers there that were independent. Now they've stiffened this up a bit by having a single pedestal there as well. Nice touch. The only bad thing is we've lost one of our holes, so we've lost two of our positions up top. So now we're a two position bar setup versus a 4 on the old XCWs. While we're up here, we're going to spend just a few minutes. As you can tell, both fork legs are going to have compression adjustments up top, part of the new closed cartridge fork that comes on these, the new Explorer. The bottom of the legs, of course, have rebound adjustments on both, so they are valved the same. So a bit of a change, and obviously a change from the XCs last year. What else do we have up here? Obviously still running Brembo up top. Should feel really familiar to those folks who are familiar with the Brembo setup up top. Very familiar oil light here as well, for those folks who've been riding TPI bikes for a while. Same with trip meter, looks very familiar. Very different switch right here with a click on and off. Gone is the old plunger where you're going to lose the knob on top and then have to reorder the whole switch. So that's a nice touch as well. I'm anxious to see how they hold up. While you're up there for a second, Brian, let's peek around the back to how we attach the headlights around. You've got these two T30 8mm right there that hook on. There are no rubber straps. It's almost a bit unsettling right now on the sides because this headlight surround is molded to accommodate the turn signals for the XCFs. So there is no rubber strap there. I was surprised when I first started seeing pictures here, this machined surface. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. They're putting the factory triple clamps with the two fingers on them. And then I realized, well, they're just machined, but they are quoting much better performance with these triple clamps. They do have a much smoother or much more finished casting than they did in the past. So interesting on there as well. For those who are following along too, a little tighter on the torque specs on the upper and lower triple clamps. I mean, in the past, if you got a forged triple clamp, you had a 17 and 12 millimeter Newton meter torque spec, so a little different there. So all sorts of little tweaks. This bike, by the way, if we haven't said it already, this bike is freaking cool. There is so much that's new and updated, and this is the best enduro bike I can imagine coming out of a factory. Take a look at just this lower triple clamp casting as well. Very reminiscent of some of the factory pieces that we've seen in the past. Very finished looking. Of course, the fender is very reminiscent of the XCs that came off with the fins on here that are meant to do two things: channel cool air in, as well as deflect mud from caking up the radiators as well. So I do like the new fork shrouds. They're very finished. This is obviously the same as the XC in terms of the piece of plastic, and still running black powder coated wheels. MX33 on the front tire there, where you're at down there. Machined hub in the middle as well. So not a lot of change down there. Big thing that you're going to notice, obviously, from the front end of the XC is the addition of the magnet here just to run the computer or trip meter here as well. Okay, so while you're on that side, let's back up a little bit and take a look at the passenger side, so to speak. Swing arm, of course, is at least a derivative of the XC unit, with a very big difference here on the PDS. Everyone's noticed in past videos that there's a new adjustment knob here for rebound. That XC rebound adjustment on the linkage is just a little tough to get to with your fingers. That makes it much simpler there as well. Up top, consistent with the XC, is going to be high speed and low speed compression with those two knobs right there. And the really nice thing for a guy who sets a whole bunch of sag up for folks is the ability to grab the bottom of that adjuster and just move it on so freely. Now, what you're going to notice is the linkage bikes have a very different collar on top here, almost one that you're going to use your hands for throughout the life of the bike. This collar is, of course, meant to be used with a spanner wrench, and so I thought that was kind of interesting that they didn't use that hand adjust collar as they did on the XC. Similar down here, you are going to have your cold start circuit, very similar to the XC and your 4-stroke bikes, with that little yellow flower, and of course your idle adjustment right up top with that red flower. It is kind of important. I've seen a lot of folks play with the red idle adjustment. Really make sure that your throttle position sensor is adjusted well before you start monkeying too much with that idle speed there. Same black clutch cover there as well. Skid plate, very similar to what you saw on past bikes and the 23s, and of course, tank design very similar as well. Your pipe is the same pipe that you're going to see on those XC bikes, so all those parts should fit the same. A turbine core will fit the same on there. You'll notice, by the way, the long canister compared to the shorty on the XC. So really interesting that they went back to a longer canister. There was a love-hate with the shorty. And I found the biggest challenge for us is when someone took off the shorty to put on a Turbine Core 2.1, they really didn't want to add that length back on. So it's interesting they went to a longer canister there as well. Peg design consistent with the other 23s that have come in. Nice tucked in footbed. So they're really helping in grabbing that bike. Anyone that's ridden one of these for more than 4 or 5 hours that hasn't chewed the living daylights out of this number plate, it does not get how nicely this forces your boots in and lets you grab that bike with your legs. So terrific update there as well. You're seeing Brembo castings still look as nice as ever. New 30mm bolt on a 22mm, I believe, axle. I'm spacing it for a moment, but definitely a 30mm bolt consistent with the 23s. Let's keep walking around here. They have not changed anything on the radiator cap design. That's consistent with the other 23s. And for those folks who don't put radiator guards on, I always think it's pretty interesting. If you haven't pulled your stock just air deflectors in, they have put a pretty nice piece of supported plastic on the outside to help protect that radiator bit.
That sticks out pretty dang far.
So yeah, it's a little more robust than past years. All right, let's go up here and talk about the big news here. Is that LED headlight. Very bright. I'm pretty impressed with them as well. The nice thing about that versus putting an LED bulb in the past headlight surround is now you've got a reflector that is designed for that bulb, and instead of just throwing scattered light, it does throw a focused beam. So pretty neat there as well. Boy, the days of stickers coming off are gone. That sticker is actually, or that KTM logo is embedded into the plastic there.
Oh, it's good.
So that's not going to go anywhere as well. By the way, early bikes, you are starting to see Explorer language on the side. I find it interesting that we've got exact language on the side of the forks now with the stickers that we're putting on. And then our big surprise today. We're going to go send Brian out and see if this works. So, of course, we looked at part numbers at a 2024 schematic for the new hard enduro, as well as the XC 2024 XC. And wouldn't you know that that engine mapping switch is the same part number. So I have let's just say I have a 24 XC that's not going anywhere anytime soon because of some missing parts. So we pirated the switch off of that and put it on Brian's bike, and he's going to tell us how effective that is on the new bike.
That's the kind of service you guys get up here at Mountain Dirty.
We want to know what's going on too, so we can talk about it. All right, so as we come on down here, all standard stuff that you're used to seeing. I do highly recommend a guard for the throttle position sensor right there as well. You do see the electronic power valve right tucked up under that part of the tank as well, just like on the 23 and 24 XCs, so nothing new there as well. Airbox design stayed consistent, comes right off. Obviously our new filter design that started last year. You see our hybrid subframe here, our composite aluminum hybrid subframe. I've had really good feedback. I have not seen a broken one yet in the last year, since the XCs and 350 XCFs and 450 XCFs have all come out, so I'm impressed by that as well. New kickstand design stays consistent with what came out last year, which is nice to see. Hopefully that screw will not become the problem that it's been in the past and doesn't fly up and hit you and lose your spring. So far so good on that as well. Gearing, really interesting. We're going to be looking, where's our mark on there? I passed it already, Brian?
Right there.
There we go. All right. 13 on the front, 45 on the back, so which does come close to the 1449 that was on the XC if you do the math between the front and rear sprockets. Interesting. I'm dying to get some more feedback on how folks like that gearing. The 13 I've got no problem with. The question is, am I going to be pirating some old 50s that I've laying around that I swapped out for 52s and put that on the back to see how that climbs. But I was surprised by the XC riding mine. I'm going to likely be surprised by a lot of things on this XCW. Now, let me slide in front of you there for one moment. Put this back on. And of course, of all the times I can't get the filter cover back on, it's going to be right now. There we go. All right. So nice, like I said, nice clean lines on it. I like a little more purple in here as well. You'll see, I'm going to take this off in a second, but really clean lines on this bike. Nice update of the XCW. One thing I think that we've all seen on the XCs is how they really tucked in this chain guide as well. The one thing I'm hoping to see from KTM is an updated tab guard here. Bulletproof, we carry the bulletproof ones. They work. Mine on my XC is very scratched up, so obviously it's working. But they've really streamlined that chain guide as well. Okay, last thing, let's go ahead and take off the seat, take a look under the hood. Okay, obviously your ECU sitting resident. It's the same basic design as we saw starting last year on the 2 and 4 strokes. CAN bus is a very different deal. No longer are you seeing the trio of relays between your trip meter, your fuel pump, and your fan. They're all kind of resident inside this unit here. As the bike runs, they give you a green light on each of those circuits to make sure they're working correctly. So really a cool update here as well. Battery sits up front, a little more centralized. Everything else should be the same. I know there have been some questions about that fuel pickup, leaving a lot of fuel in these tanks. We've talked a lot to the factory about it. Pulling the bike on its side, making sure you get that front wheel in the air, sloshing that fuel around to refill that well is really important here to make sure this picks up as much fuel as possible. I will say this, it is an absolute delight to change fuel pumps and fuel filters on these compared to the old bikes. So I love that as well. Your main bike fuse, of course, sitting right in front. So a lot of nice updates. I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with this bike. Plenty of people have told you their opinions on it. I've got one opinion, man. What an amazing starting canvas that we have here for an enduro bike. Can't wait to get them out. A lot of improvements. Very excited for those folks who really don't want to run premix. I'm anxious to see how that goes. I'm also anxious for any folks that have a point of view on real mix ratios after some riding. Does it stay consistent 60 to 1, or are we going to see those same fluctuations that we saw in TPI based on riding styles and how much you're on the gas versus how much you're lugging? But I would suspect this bike is going to end up running a little bit leaner than the XCs that are out there right now. So yeah, Brian, what do you think?
Lee, I appreciate the explanation. Man, you're always the best. If you guys need a bike, this is the place to come, in my opinion. I've never been to a dealership where they go over a bike in so much detail, show you all the inner workings. He's done his homework. He's been paying attention before the bikes even arrived. He knows all the details. Their staff here are awesome. They have so many great bikes in stock. I'll just tell you, it's no nonsense buying experience when you come here to Mountain Dirty Motorsports. It's a family-run business. Him and his wife are just incredible. Their dogs, their whole staff. Super thankful for them. Lee, you're the best. Really appreciate it. Guys, check out Mountain Dirty Motorsports. It is the best, in my opinion. Lee, thanks again for the great explanation of this beautiful bike. Can't wait to give you some feedback on it, man, with the map switch.
Me too. I can't wait to hear it, man. That's going to be awesome.
All right. Lee, thanks again, man.
Likewise. Thank you.